We are sheep who sometimes get lost. It may have been curiosity or sometimes monotony, but each of us has strayed from the flock. We have sought other pastures or simply loneliness. But like the sheep, we are always looking for a flock to return to, a shepherd to bind our wounds and calm our fears. It's not just a wish, not just a desire, not just a dream that may or may not belong to us. The search for someone to take care of us is a need that must be fulfilled. We are born fragile, and our life would never have blossomed if someone had not taken care of us. Through the image of the shepherd, Jesus is saying that He alone meets our need for care in its fullness. It's no coincidence that in the earliest representations of Christ, those in catacombs, when the early Christians began to look for images to represent the God in whom they believed, they immediately portrayed Him as the handsome shepherd who always had a sheep on his shoulders. It is not obvious to see in us the need for to be cared for. Our culture urges us to assert our autonomy, independence, and self-sufficiency. Postmodern man does not allow for emptiness. He is fully immersed in the illusion that he can always respond independently to his own shortcomings. The flock, the herd, has become a symbol of the lack of freedom and autonomy of thought. And precisely because we refuse to recognize in ourselves the need for someone to take care of us, we end up rejecting even the idea of a shepherding God. The Jews themselves are disturbed by this image proposed by Jesus, and when confronted with this image of God, they distance themselves. As we read, again the Jews picked up stones to stone him. Paradoxically, we prefer a God who asks us to make sacrifices and efforts to be worthy of him, rather than a God who comes looking for us when we are lost. We prefer a God who tests us as in an eternal race rather than a God who tends to our wounds. We are much more inclined to test how good we are than to see how wounded we are. The only way not to get lost is to listen to the voice of the pastor. As in any relationship, it is only with time that we learn to recognize the voice of the other. The voice is the sign of presence. It makes the other person present even when he or she is not there. When someone calls us, but we cannot see him or her, we recognize him or her presence through the voice. The voice of Lord is the voice through which God reaches us. The word of God is the voice of the shepherd who gathers the flock. Many voices mix in our lives. Often the voice of hirelings who are not interested in our good, but only in their own gain. The more familiar we become with the voice of the shepherd, the more easily we will be able to recognize it, even when we are lost, even when we are far away, even when night is falling. Unlike the hireling, the shepherd does not flee. It is likely that this image was created at the time of persecution of the Christian community. He who loves you stays, even if staying means risking his life. The mercenary, on the other hand, stays in a relationship only as long as it suits him. Similarly, wolves that take and scatter are a reality of all times. Wolves will always inevitably come into our lives. We may believe that we are not helpless as sheep, but if there were no shepherd to take care of us, we could only be torn apart by wolves. See, in life we can get lost because in the flock that is life, there is always a door. We can constantly confronted with situations in which we have to choose whether to stay or to go. The door is the image of freedom. We are never prisoners of God. Once a sheep found a hole in the fence and crawled through it. It wandered far and lost its way back. Then the sheep noticed that a wolf was following it. The sheep ran and ran, and the wolf kept chasing it until the shepherd came and rescued the sheep and lovingly carried it back to the flock. Despite everyone's urging, the shepherd refused to nail up the hole in the fence. And even this frightens us. The God of Jesus is the shepherd of a fold whose door is always open. The responsibility to choose life is always in our hands. But even if we get lost, we can be sure that the shepherd is already coming for us.